our last session of the day. Appreciate everybody being here. So this is Cam Drew, former Fenestration Canada president, currently works for Fenestration Canada on the business development side, and he's going to take us through his next session on the lean manufacturing that he's been providing for us. So Cam, it's all yours.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you all individually. Like, I have the time here now to thank you each and every one of you for sticking out. It's the last session on the last day. We're going to go through this at a pretty good pace. So today we're talking about creating culture that supports lean thinking. We're going to go through some of the lean tools that we went through at the AGM. We're also going to bring in Mark Rosenthal, who's a specialist, somebody you would bring into your factory to help you go through not just learning the lean tools, but implementing a culture so that 6 months down the road and 1 year down the road, you're still using the lean tools. So to give you a little background on myself, in 2010, when the market was doing what the market was doing, in the province of BC, there was what's called the Pull Ahead BC program, and manufacturers were invited to get involved and go through a 1 year training program, and becomes 3 people in our factory became lean certified. I was one of them. And you have to put all of your staff through for 1 year of lean training. Very valuable. We took advantage of the Pull Ahead program, as well as 3 other manufacturers. At the end of the year, we were the only manufacturer still in the program. The other 3 had bowed out, which tells you that keeping the culture alive is very challenging. And I'm going to show you in some of the areas and some of the tools that we believed in wholeheartedly and still were not able to implement on a regular basis in our factory. All right, so I only hope that today I communicate to you the importance of communication. That is number one all through your factory to support safety, quality, innovation, teamwork. So let's talk about value here. All right, so everything that you do in your factory as far as administration goes and processing is either value, something the customer will pay for, non-value added, so it's a necessity, but not something the customer will pay for. So like my position when I was the owner, manager of the company, it was hard to face this, but I was non-value added at the company. It's not something the customer would pay for. They paid for the person down in the assembly that put the screw into the hinge. That's what they will pay for. And then there's waste. It's not necessary, and it adds no value to the customer. Hopefully, some of these tools will help you identify waste in your processes so you can eliminate it. One thing you may want to do as well is take your organizational chart and put all of your team members into either value or non-value positions. Color them green if they're value, and blue or red if they're non-value. And you may see that you have a lot of non-value team members in your company. You want to monitor that because you want as many value-added team members as possible. So these are some of the lean tools we're going to talk about today. Value stream mapping. We're going to go into each of these 5. Now, there are literally hundreds of tools that you can implement in your factory or your office or wherever you want to find waste and remove it. Value stream mapping, the Gemba walk, which to me is the most important but the hardest to implement. It's easy to implement, difficult to keep. 5S, which is it's kind of the low-hanging fruit. The floor diagram, simple. We put it together. I'll show you how to do it quickly, inexpensively, and very valuable. And then spaghetti diagram, which is also a very valuable tool. So we're going to talk to, I interviewed Mark Rosenthal to help us today. He's a results-driven lean director and a manager with over 20 years experience implementing lean manufacturing and continuous improvement. He's got a deep understanding of the Toyota production system, and he also talks a lot about how you can gain buy-in so the culture stays in your company. So my conversation with Mark was as much as how to approach it as it was about how to do it. So I asked Mark, where should we start?
So you always want to begin with what's the result we're trying to achieve, rather than just looking for a bunch of stuff to change. And I think that's the most important way, to keep in mind because that's what trips people up in the very beginning.
All right. So now let's go through. This is a value stream map. You're going to hear me call a VSM. Has anybody run a VSM in your company before? Okay. We were using it. This is a tool we used often. We used it on the processes on the floor, in the glazing department, in assembly, in delivery. Shipping is very valuable. This is a very valuable tool for shipping, but we also used it for our install process, which is no manufacturing there, but just the process from the point of contact, the first point of contact from the customer contacting us to the point where we are invoicing the customer at the end of the job. We ran a value stream map just to make sure that, and we did find many of our processes were not something the customer would pay for, and they were not a necessity. So we removed them and we created a future stream map. So the value stream map, let's go through these steps here. The process, the original VSM template was created by the Toyota Motor Company. And as we all know, or we should know, they are #1 in lean manufacturing in the world. And I'm going to give you a couple books at the very end that Mark recommended. I've just finished the Toyota way for the Toyota management process. There's a ton of books written on Toyota and lean manufacturing. I recommend that you pick up some. So value stream maps, they illustrate the necessary process steps that exist from order entry to final product delivery, and they're useful for gaining a wide-reaching view of the company's activities. At Toyota, it allowed them to remove non-essential activities that created waste while maintaining the manufacturing process. So the value stream portion of the VSM system centers on how value can be added to a product or service by changing the market form or function to meet the customer's needs. So not only are you looking to remove waste, but you could also be looking to add some processes that the customer may pay for. A process you may want to add, an example in our industry, is putting the protective film on the glass before you send the window to the job site. Some of you may do that, some of you may not, and some of you may charge the customer and make that an option. That's something that is value added, something the customer would pay for. So step #1 is process identification. What is it we want to make better? So it could be the shipping. You identify something that you want to examine. That's a good start. This map is in a single area of your organization, but when you have multiple plants and customers and suppliers that are included, you can extend the level of the map. So what do? We form a team to create the lean value stream map and identify your objectives and your scope. So you need to form a cross-functional, high-level team of managers, supervisors from throughout the company, representatives from multiple departments, sales, customer service, inventory, operations, and beyond, to help ensure that information can be passed freely back and forth and that items don't slip through the cracks. Consider also adding important suppliers to your group as well so you can get an outside perspective. The ideal team size is about 10. Now, my company, I only had 50 staff, so it was challenging, but we would often have maybe 6 or 7 people in a value stream map, even right down to the installers, the guys hammering the nails. We'd have them in the room as well, so they understood the whole process start to finish. Step 2, you do a Kaizen kickoff and the VSM planning. After you've got your team together, the next step is to hold a 3-day Kaizen event. Kaizen is the Japanese word for change for the better. So during a Kaizen, team members begin developing current and future plans. So it's also nice if you have somebody with VSM experience to be in the room. So you're going to do step #3 is map the current state. So you're going to go through and say, okay, what are we doing today? And even if it's wasteful, get it on the page. Even once you've identified it as waste, put it on there. Put all of your processes, create the current state map, collect the data and information by walking the flow and interviewing the people who perform the task. This is beneficial for 2 reasons. The team will have the opportunity to see the entire process and look for waste, and the people who actually perform the work can answer questions and clarify any misconceptions or preconceived notions on how the tasks are performed. When your team is walking the flow, be sure to gather high-value information from employees like cycle time or processing time, run a stopwatch, changeover time, reliability of equipment. So you want the background on anything that isn't consistent, quantities, number of operators and shifts, hard copy information, electronic information, inventory levels, queue or waiting times. The information gathered does not have to be perfect or overly detailed, but as long as the data provides a relatively clear picture of major issues, the team can begin building the process map. So the next is waste identification. I don't think I really need to go into that too much. You just look at each process and everything that you have listed, and is it something the customer will pay for, or is it a necessity? And if not, you've identified it as waste. You want to know, now we want to create the step number 5, map the future state. So you take your current state VSM and save it. Now start with a future state. Things that you need to know for your future state, though, is takt time. T-A-K-T is takt. It's the German word for the baton the conductor uses when he controls the orchestra's speed and beat and timing. So the takt time refers to how frequently a part or component must be produced to meet your customer's demands. So if you've got 22,000 seconds available in a shift in a day, and you want to make 200 pieces, it means you have to make a piece every 110 seconds. Or 110 seconds. Pretty simple math. That's your takt time. Now, from the data collection during the Kaizen, look at the cycle times and processing times. If any of these are greater than your takt time, you've got a candidate for a bottleneck or constraint. You will never meet your takt time at the end of the day if one of those steps takes longer than 110 seconds. It's plain and simple. Where can inventory or the queue time be reduced, or supermarkets be used? Where can you improve flow, and what other improvements are required? So on the VSM, place a Kaizen burst, a sticky note, a thought around any items to signal improvements where they're needed. Items may include low equipment reliability or first pass yield, long changeover times. Great story from Robert and Meggie. Kyle, did you ever go to the Great Little Box Company? Have you ever been on that tour? No? Part of our lean training, we got to visit the Great Little Box Company, which is on the Lower Mainland. They have been using lean tools, and they have a great culture there. So they decided to post the changeover time of one of their pieces of equipment, and they had an A shift and a B shift that would work on this piece of equipment. And they first found the A shift was taking 122 minutes to change over the equipment when they went from one piece to another. Well, then the B shift got it down to 88 minutes. Then the A shift got it down. Well, finally, they got it down to a 14-minute changeover only by posting the changeovers and which shift got that. They kept working on lowering the change. It had been 122 minutes because it had been allowed to be 122 minutes for years after year after year after year, when it could have been a 14-minute changeover. So you take that difference between 14 and 122, and you add that every time you change over, and there you find waste. So that was just clear. There again, talking about communication, that was just a communication tool. That's a KPI. You put that out where everybody can see it, and you'll see change happen for the better. If you have large batches, any waste such as overproduction, motion, transportation, we'll talk about the spaghetti diagram and how that can really help you in finding waste in motion, defects, adjustments, overprocessing. So here's Mark with some tips on how to best approach the values.
If I see a whole bunch of batch processes, though, okay, maybe the first thing I'm going to start to do is to connect them. I'm going to look at why are we moving a lot of whip around on the floor for it's sitting there. But I want to take a step back. Okay, if I'm just going to go in blind, I'm going to start with the classic current state value stream map, but I want the top leaders to make it. I'll help them do it. I will show them how to do it. We'll go down and spend a lot of time on the floor, but what we'll end up with is here's how your business operates today. And here's why you're getting the results you want. That being said, why are you doing this? If you're happy with the results you're getting today, and you're happy with the way it feels to work there and happy with everything else, then why are we doing this? So I want to listen, and I want to understand when I come back around. I want to understand, what are they struggling with? But that value stream map isn't a bad place to begin, as long as you've got some kind of, you're looking at it through the eyes of curiosity about trying to understand, what is it about our business that's creating the outcomes that we're getting that we might want to change.
So what he's saying is things may be just perfect, as good as they can be. You're happy with the outcome, great. And then if not, here are some of the tools that we can use to make the changes. Now, we have to understand, though, it's a cultural change, and this is the most important element.
Everybody's starting in a different place. You have to understand it's a culture change. It's the technical change is there, and the technical change is straightforward and easy. And in a medium-sized manufacturing company of a few hundred people, you can probably make all the technical changes in about 90 days. 6-8 months later, there won't be a trace of it, because you have to work on the conversations. You have to work on the patterns of interaction. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to listen first, and I'm going to understand, what problem are they actually trying to solve, because not lean is not a problem. All the lean stuff is there to help you solve your problems that are in the way of delivering value to your customers. So it's really a self-assessment, not against some kind of lean scale, but against, where are we as a business, and what's getting in our way of smoothly delivering value on a day-to-day basis. So it's really, the place to get started is to get down on the shop floor, watch what's going on, watch what's getting in people's way. So, sometimes the classic current state value stream mapping tool might be good for that. But I don't focus so much on specific tools and techniques. I'm going to look at whatever it is that can open our eyes to what's really happening, so that then we can say, okay, where do we want to go from here? What's the first major step we want to take? And then start working on it. I know that's really vague, but it's really so situational, just depending on how the company operates today and where they want to end up.
I love that he says, not being lean isn't a problem. So these are just tools that you can use. They're lean tools, but you want to use these to create a culture of continuous improvement. Great communication will get you a culture of continuous improvement. This is probably the greatest tool, Gemba walk, and the most difficult. And we're going to go through how to create a great Gemba walk. And I'll tell you, in my company, we started one at 9 o'clock every morning. Probably 6 months in, it was 9 o'clock 3 days a week. Then it became 9 o'clock 1 day a week. And then it was just 9 o'clock every once in a while. And it was the toughest thing to continue, but it was the most valuable tool that we used. So a Gemba walk is a workplace walkthrough which aims to observe employees, ask about their task, identify productivity gains. The word Gemba means the real place. So that's where everything happens. It's where the work happens. You can do a safety Gemba walk, but I think a good Gemba walk will deal with safety, quality, teamwork, innovation. Why are they important? They help eliminate incorrect assumptions about the workforce and drive changes with a lasting positive impact. Developed by Toyota, again, the Gemba walks can empower organizations to sustain continuous improvement efforts to help solve disconnects between leadership, vision, and implementation of process and operations. They're done to identify issues and gain valuable insights on how to improve them, reduce waste, lower the bottlenecks, continuous improvement. Once you've created a VSM, you use the Gemba walk to communicate what the future state should be to all of your staff. So that's great communication. They all know where the company should be. You get to build stable relationships. I found through the Gemba walk that one of our welders, Devin, his son was Oliver. He had a boy at home named Oliver that was 6 months old, and so we were able to follow Devin was there for about 3 years up until the time I sold, and so we were able to have a good conversation about Oliver for his first birthday and second birthday and third birthday and what Oliver was up to. That brought me and Devin a lot closer, having better conversation, and I think he enjoyed his work a little more. It demonstrates a commitment towards professional development. It boosts employee morale. It introduces changes that can be easily embraced by workers because they often came from the people that were going to implement the changes. You work together to create them. It's a culture of improvement, openness, collaboration, and teamwork. You streamline operations across different levels in the organization. Now, it is going to be challenging because you think of the team members you're going to invite on the floor. If you look at this graphic here, that should be the manager. Oh, by the way, why isn't the top guy wearing the helmet? Why is only the 3 people on the left proving safety? But there you go, or on the 4 on the left. So it should be your manager, sales manager, production manager, technical director. A lot of high-end employees, you're asking them to be available to you at 9 o'clock or whatever time you set every morning. They're going to tell you they have too many fires to put out to be there. The reason why they have too many fires to put out is because you're not performing a daily Gemba walk. If you perform the daily Gemba walk, there are no fires. You dealt with it 24 hours ago. When it was just a little spark, you put it out. You never let it become a fire. So actually, by doing the Gemba walk, you're going to find out, what are we going to do for the rest of the day? You know, you're never letting the fire start. You use the 5 whys. That's another tool. I didn't put it up here, 5 whys. But if somebody misses a meeting because they had to deal with a customer, that's usually the reason why. We always put the customer ahead of everything. Great. So I had to deal with a problem with the customer. Well, why? Well, the delivery was late. Well, why? We didn't get it on the truck. Well, why? We didn't have all the parts to assemble it. Why didn't we have all the parts? So you keep asking the why until you dig down to find out what caused that problem. 5 whys will always tell you what you need to change your processes so that person never has to make the call regarding the late delivery, so that manager is now available for your Gemba walk every morning at 9 o'clock. So you go see. I would recommend, if you're going to start the Gemba walk, you first get the supervisor that is responsible for the workstation. Say you're going to do a Gemba walk of from assembly through to glazing and delivery every morning at 9 o'clock. That's an area you're going to identify. Get the supervisor for that area to go through there one-on-one and let the people know, because it's going to be very intimidating to have 8 or 9 or 6 or whatever members from the management team walk into this workstation and say, hey, how are you doing? The person may not have ever experienced this communication to management before, this access to management, and they may not want to say anything at all. They'll feel intimidated. So use a supervisor to make them at ease, let them know what the goal is, and that we want to hear from them. We want to communicate 2 ways in the company, up and down, side to side. When we did our organizational chart, by the way, and you may want to do this, never put the shareholders or management at the top, put them at the side. Everybody's on the same plane. All right. So just so you see, or sometimes in lean, management is at the bottom and you are supporting the people above you. What do you need? How can I help you? So never put yourself at the top. So you get on the floor and you ask why. Gemba walkers need to probe the value stream thoroughly and identify opportunities for improvement through active communication and listening. Techniques such as the 5 whys that we talked about can be used to identify problematic areas of a process and ensure that they address the root cause of these process issues. Show respect. So here's how you do the Gemba walk. You give the team or employee the courtesy of a heads up. We talked about that, the supervisor. Prepare the questions to get the information you need. So with improvement as the ultimate goal in mind, the observer can prepare questions before the Gemba walk, as well as apply techniques such as the 5 whys to get relevant information during the walk. They can also use checklists as guides so make sure all your points are being observed, asked, and recorded. So create your own checklist. So it's not just showing up into the workstation and saying, so how was your day today? How was your day? This was what we were doing back in 2010, and it was a mistake. I admit. We were asking, how's your day today? How was your day yesterday? And is there anything we can do to improve your workstation? It's not bad, but we didn't have a checklist. And what we weren't doing is we did not have the future state value stream map, and we had not communicated that to them to say, okay, and we're going to get into this. We're going to get into a little more detail in the communication that you should have on the floor. Record your observations. So it's not just a chat on the floor. Record the observations and show respect by following up on the observations that you record. After the Gemba walk is done, follow up and share what you've learned from the activity, including the issues, the struggles, the gaps that need immediate action and resolution. From this, determine which process should remain and which ones need to be revamped. So here's some of the questions you can ask. What are you responsible for? What does this task align with the company goals? Because you've shared with them the VSM. Does this task align with that? How did you learn to complete the task? This next one is a difficult question to ask, but why do you do this specific task like that? If you had it your way, how would you do the task? And what happens if equipment, tools, materials are unavailable? And when they answer, 5 whys. I don't have, I watched one of our staff one day wander around the floor, and there was a position up the stairs where you could see the whole floor. And I saw them wandering. I knew they were looking for a tool. And as they wandered, somebody from another workstation asked them what they were looking for. Oh, my vice grips. Oh, I'll help you look. So now we had 2 people wandering, playing Where's Waldo? And along the way, they picked up a third, the Pied Piper. So now we had 3 people wandering around the floor looking for the one tool. I calculated they were 5 minutes, so that's 15 minutes looking for the tool. So then when we asked the 5 why, we were able to create a shadow board. We painted the tools the color of that workstation. A little tip, and we'll do this in the floor diagram. You may want to identify, let's take assembly. Assembly could be blue. All of the tools in assembly are blue. There is a blue mark all the way on the floor around assembly. So any tools in that area that are blue cannot leave that workstation. They can't go anywhere else. So if somebody says, well, I was going to go in there and grab that tool, why? Because I don't have my tool. Why? And we keep finding out why they're missing their tool, but we can't let them take a tool from another workstation. Creates too much waste. Okay, so every day at 9 a.m., the most senior person in the facility, the vice president, takes the walk along with the national sales director, manufacturing manager, production manager, shipping managers. At this point, you can start rolling your eyes if you want, because you're saying there's not a chance I can get all these people on the floor every day at 9 a.m. This is what Toyota does, though, and this is why Toyota is very successful. Each stop on the walk is centered around a production board. If any discussion at a board lasts longer than 3 minutes, they will assign someone responsible to coordinate a meeting, initiate a review on the issue. Operators at each location participate, enabling all parts of the organization to be in the loop. So the person in the assembly, running assembly, or actually assembling the window will be involved. So improves the direct lines of communication. The staff knew that senior management was interested in them and their work. They witnessed their leaders identify problems and take steps to resolve them. But getting buy-in, we talk about this all day, getting buy-in won't be easy, but the value will be immeasurable. Oh, Mario? I'll go back.
Let's tie it together. So if I have that future state value stream map and I have this work cell that maybe we need to get more consistent delivery attacked out of it. Okay, just riffing here, or reduce their total operator cycle time by some amount, or a changeover, whatever it is, it's going to contribute to the bigger thing. Now when I'm going down there and I'm asking that supervisor is, hey, remind me what your target condition is right now. What are you striving for in the next 2 weeks toward this goal? What's it going to look like? Where are you now against that? What was the thing you tried yesterday to maybe make it a little better? What did you expect to learn from that? Okay, what actually happened? What did you learn? Based on that, are you still working on the same problem, or is there a different one? Okay, what's your step for today, and what can we talk about tomorrow? And now I'm not just randomly asking, I'm coaching them through the process of learning how to make improvements. And now it is focused on specific things that tie up to what the overall goal of the company is. And yeah, safety and all that absolutely preempts all of this. But rather than just asking at random, now we've got a focused conversation, and I'm working to develop their improvement skills.
You can't help but continually improve your processes if you do the Gemba walk. It can't go the other way. It can only improve. Here's another tool. This is the 5S methodology. We'll go through this. I think some of you, have anybody done 5S so far? Perfect. Good, Gordon. You've probably done it. This is a little more standard way of doing it. And this is what's also called the low-hanging fruit. You identify a workstation. Let's identify the assembly department. And you start by just sorting. You're just eliminating unnecessary items from that workplace that are not needed for current production operators or operations. There's probably a couple drills that don't work that are in that workplace. There's going to be some tools that don't work. Just get them out. You red tag them. Involves evaluating the necessity of each item in a work area and dealing with it appropriately. A red tag is placed on all items that are not important for operations that are not in the proper location or quantity. Once a red tag item is identified, these items are then moved to a central holding area for subsequent disposal, recycling, or reassignment. Yeah, these are all what we found in our 5S were a bunch of tools that should have been in another workstation, which we had bought another time to replace them. And I think you can hear that there's waste in that process. Don't do that. All right, so the next is set in order. Step number 2, set in order focuses on creating efficient and effective storage methods to arrange items so that they're easy to use and to label them so that they're easy to find and put away. I use the example, we were involved in the development of a building, and one of the tenants in the building was a dentist. Not manufacturing at all. He spent an exorbitant amount of money in the design of his dentist practice, $250,000, and this was in 1994. So I talked to Ron, Dr. Smith, and I said, Ron, what are you doing? He says, well, back then, he says, I run at $750 an hour. That's my hourly rate. And so if I take 2 steps to the right or 1 step to the left, and I do that all day, you can see where I'm going to get my money back very quickly. I don't want to have to reach this far if I can reach this far to get the tool that I use most often. And that's how this whole floor plan was designed. I still go to that dentist today, and that was in 1994 that I designed it, and it's working out very well for them. It's very high. They're very productive dentistry, and he has made his $250,000 back many times over. So set in order. Is the person right-handed or left-handed? What tools do they use most? Where are they reaching? Watch them for a while and get it so they're reaching the least amount for what they're grabbing the most. Always move heavy close so you're not having to carry heavy. Watch where items are being put so that you're not creating a WCB back strain. And showing respect to your team member. Let's see, get the unneeded items out. Yep, we've done all that. Set in order includes painting the floors, affixing labels and placards to designate proper storage locations and methods, outlining work areas and locations, and installing modular shelving and cabinets. We were getting to the point where, as well, in assembly, where we would put something like an A3, a blue A3 on a shelf. And then we were getting from our shipper, the companies we were getting the orders from, if that was going into assembly, that was the A, we got them to put an A3 on the label. So when the receiver received it, anybody could then take that box and put it exactly where it was supposed to go. It went into A3. It didn't go into the back room where we'd lose it and then reorder it again. First, we would run out of, that's what we would do, is we'd run out of something, then we'd run around the plant and see if we had another box, and we didn't find it, we'd order it, and then we'd have back orders, and then we'd have way too much. Well, now we just took the box, put it exactly where it's supposed to go. It had an A3 on it, and we streamlined our processes. That's something you can do, is you can work with your supplier to see if they have the ability to put something else on that label for you. The next is shine. Once the clutter has been clogging the work area is eliminated, remaining items are organized. The next step is to thoroughly clean the work area. Daily follow-up cleaning is necessary to sustain this improvement. Working in a clean environment enables workers to notice malfunctions. That's one thing that you'll find. If the environment is clean, for one, it's safer, less chance of a WCB claim. Also, if there's a small oil leak, you will see it in a clean environment sooner than you would find in a dirty environment. So also take a photograph. By the way, once you've got it shined and it's great, that's part of the standardization. Take a photograph, post that photo in color, so when the Gemba walk comes around, you can quickly see, is the workstation looking like the photograph? When it degrades slowly. So what happens if you don't have the photograph, you may not see the small degradations that box is now over here instead of there. And, so take the photograph and reward the team member, though, if they're able to keep the workstation in great shape. So standardize. Once the first 3 S's have been implemented, the next pillar is to standardize the best practices in the work area. The method to maintain the first 3 pillars, it creates a consistent approach to which tasks and procedures are done. The 3 steps in this process are assigning, set, sort, set in order, and shine. Job responsibilities. Who does what? Some of the tools used in standardizing the 5S procedures are job cycle charts, visual cues, placards, display scoreboards, scheduling of a 5-minute 5S period, and checklists. The second part of standardization is prevention, preventing accumulation of unneeded items, preventing procedures from breaking down, and preventing equipment and materials from getting dirty. And then this is the toughest one, sustain. Making a habit of properly maintaining correct procedures is often the most difficult S to implement and achieve. Changing entrenched behaviors can be difficult, and the tendency is often to return to the status quo and the comfort zone of the old way of doing things. So I wish you the best of luck in sustaining. That is the challenge here. But if you are able to create a culture, then you'll find that sustaining is much easier. Getting buy-in is mandatory.
It's the interesting thing about business today is somehow we have taught 2 generations of managers that all you have to do is look at the finances and you're managing. And that's ludicrous, right? Because the numbers come from operations. So who's managing the detail of operations? Who knows how operations works? Who knows where these numbers come from? So if the CEO isn't going to be doing that, who is? And how does the CEO know that that's happening? So it's really, from the CEO's perspective, getting smart enough to ask the kinds of questions that lead to operations. The other piece of that is a lot of times people have KPIs and metrics that are all financially based, but you've got to translate those into operational goals that if we achieve them, we believe we'll hit the financial goals. So what level in the company does the language change from financial language to operational language? And the higher up that happens, the more operationally savvy that company is.
All right. This is a tool that we believed in. We hired somebody to measure out our factory. It wasn't a large factory, 25,000 square feet. We took a whiteboard. We took that product that is a sticky product that it's about 1/8 of an inch wide, and that was used for all of the current walls, immovable places. We use that also for any pillars, anything that was immovable, that went down in permanent ink. Everything else was done with magnets. So you buy the sheets of magnets, 8.5 by 11, and you cut them to scale. So you do the floor diagram to scale. You do it on a very large magnetic whiteboard. Then you buy the magnets. You cut all of your equipment to scale. You draw out in an erasable marker all of the workstations, because you may move the workstation around. And then that's how you create the floor diagram. And you can bring your team around anytime they want to make some changes. Bring them to the floor diagram and see, okay, when we move that piece of equipment over here, does it fit? Where's our flow? Where are we going to store our product? Is it safe? It's a great tool, a great visual tool for everybody to see. So I highly recommend it. Get it in on the floor in an area where you can have your team gather around and easily see it. And anytime you're looking at purchasing new equipment, you'll be surprised to find that maybe it doesn't fit where you thought it did. So, but this is the best way to do it. Create a floor diagram. This is a spaghetti diagram. You see the before on the left and the after. We found when at our previous factory, before we moved, when we did the spaghetti diagram in the paint process, that it was waste, nothing but waste. We were moving all over the place. So when we created the new flow of when we acquired a new factory, we used a spaghetti diagram just to make sure that we had the least amount of movement in the factory and created the least amount of waste. So a spaghetti diagram is basically just saying, how are things moving? Where are people carrying them? You want, of course, most often the glass is nearest the shipping department, so you're moving heavy, least amount possible, but sometimes you have certain constraints. What moves can you make so there's the least amount of moves? There is no waste of motion in your factory. You want to, cycle time is all important in manufacturing. Every shop floor operation and process has its own cycle time. You want to reduce the cycle time of operations, increase efficiency, and throughput. So the spaghetti diagram allows you to see the shop floor with a new set of eyes. Suddenly, chaotic activity is crystallized in a clear concrete form, making analysis much clearer. So what conversations, I asked Mark what conversations we should have to support all of these tools from all levels of management.
If we could get this kind of operational performance, if we could have this teamwork and this daily problem solving against whatever comes up at pretty low levels of the organization, what would that be worth to you? Rather than trying to calculate, because, what's the ROI of good teamwork? Tell me. If you, anybody out there who can, I want to know, because then we've cracked the code. But you look at these sports teams whose win and loss performance exceeds the statistics of any individual on the team. What's the secret sauce? It's the chemistry, right? It is how they support each other. It's the alignment that they have toward the goal. It's that they're backing each other up. And it's hard to put a number on that, but that's what you're trying to achieve. And all of the lean tools out there are designed to help people see what's actually happening so that they can respond, correct, fix, and make it better. None of the tools by themselves do that. All they do is they give people the opportunity to do that in a more focused way, but only people can improve the process.
If you're a manager and you're coming home feeling like it's a you against them day that you had, you're not managing well. You need the team. So Mark Rosenthal, if you want to dig in a little more, and that's where I'd recommend you go do a little more digging, that is theleanthinker.com. He's got a blog. Spend a little time. I also asked him to give me a couple recommendations on books you can read. The Toyota Kata Practice Guide from Mark Rother, Bringing Scientific Thinking to Life from Sylvan Landry. I think the Toyota Kata Practice Guide has different editions as well. There's 1, 2, and 3, so you can get into a lot of depth there. But just go do some reading online about the lean thinker. And Mark just wanted to leave us with this one last thought here. I thought this.
The other analogy that I use that people like is there's this perception that once I put these tools in place, I'm there. And I like to say that's like saying the freezer is cold enough, so now we can unplug it. You have to keep putting energy into this improvement energy into your system, even to sustain. because otherwise entropy wins.
He's right. When you're flying home from this show, and when you get as high as you're going to go in that plane and as fast as you're going to go, why don't you just ask the pilot to cut the gas to the engines? Because why don't we just save some gas? And you know what happens then. So it is tough to sustain. It is going to be fairly easy if you're excited about some of these lean tools to go and put them in place. But the challenge is building a culture so that it is supported from all four corners of your factory. But it's possible. Trust me. Questions, discussion, any questions from the floor on lean thinking, or everybody's ready to go implement all of these tools starting Monday? Gord? That's a great, what do you do for reward? That's fantastic. For one, the biggest reward that you already are offering them is communication. You imagine the conversation somebody has to their sphere of influence, to their community, when they say, well, I meet with the manager of the company every day. Is that not a huge reward right there? This is somebody who is an assembly at a factory, and they get to talk to the head of the company every day at night. So they're very important. They're now being rewarded. That's one form. That's communication is probably the greatest reward that you can offer. But if they then communicate to you something that creates a change, one company offered pens. Well, turns out that became very valuable. Some companies do gas cards. That's very valuable in this day and age. So wouldn't it be great? You may want to do it publicly as well. So if you're doing a staff meeting, then handing over a $100 gas card to 6 individuals that each made a difference, and you explain what the difference was. So, Jane and Assembly came up with this change here, and here's, we felt that here's a thank you for the work, and you do that publicly, you're going to have everybody on the floor wanting to, for one, get that gas card, and 2, get that gas card publicly. So I know we're coming down to we're so close here. Man, oh man. I understand. I really appreciate you all coming on the final day of 2-day and the final presentation, and joining us here. Any other questions? Thank you all.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for being at the show. Couple of quick things. I just want to recognize our sponsors. Again, Quanex, our presenting sponsor, Leighton Consulting, our Learning Lounge sponsor, Comerling for the coffee that got me through today. Great show, I think. Was well attended. We had lots of people in the aisles. Even today, later in the afternoon, there was still a pretty good number of people out there. Couple of things that are coming up. Calgary, October 21st is Top Class West. I'm going to be presenting there on our thermal calculator. In BC on April the 8th is the Canadian Glazing Conference. And then we're back to Winnipeg for FenCon, April the 23rd. And then Quebec City, May 26th to 29th for our AGM. And then next year in Montreal in November for Windor. Again, thanks very much, everybody. Appreciate everybody being here. Thanks to our team, Steph, Lane, Jeff. Who else is on our team? Mario, my IT guy, my AV guy. He's always a killer. Felix, Cam, of course. Adrian, Lee. Again, thanks, everybody. Really happy to have you here, and safe travels on your way home. Thanks a lot. You got a few more minutes still with the show open, so hit some booths and check out some of the cool stuff out there. Thanks a lot.